collaborative way with all sectors, the economic, social, environmental, all of these different groups. So that in the future we'll be back to rail the way most countries are. We're the only country that is not developing rail, passenger rail service. We're the, for example, even the US is investing heavily in Amtrak. So our vision is to have trains like this that with Bombardier, they have amazing trains that will go on the very same kind of tracks that we have, that are efficient, and they're making these trains for Asia and all over the place, but meanwhile they could be very functional here. And these are some of the reasons that we feel that the time is right. This is very much a time of increasing fuel prices, as we all know. And
excuse me, Linda, excuse me, was that a bud car?
No, that's because bud cars no longer are being made. This is something that's more...
it's called clean diesel, and it's produced by Bombardier, and they're all over in Europe.
Okay.
Yes.
It's more efficient even than...
I've never seen that train before, and I just question, because I got to report to my people here.
Yeah.
One thing I should mention, you know, here on Central, they were saying we had hoped that passenger service could be resumed because it was tax bucks that upgraded it so that the line could keep running for freight. And we were told, well, it has to be upgraded further for passenger rail. For safety standard, it has to be at higher level for the bud cars to run on. With the clean diesel, that upgrade is not necessary. Those cars will run safely on freight traffic.
Okay, thank you.
And as this slide says, rail is the single most effective way to combine a more efficient fuel usage as well as reducing carbon emissions, which we really need to do because of our weather fluctuations now, extreme weather. So I won't go through all of these because I know you want to get at your discussion. But there are some major economic benefits to rail, and our pamphlet, we've got some in the back that we should hand around, but they've got these benefits in the pamphlet. It just shows like how much more efficient rail is for moving both goods and people. The environmental benefits, of course, are really clear. This is one of the fastest ways that we could reduce carbon emissions. And this particular figure is quite striking, that it's 10 times less carbon emissions through rail as compared with road travel. Not that road travel is even an option for those of us on the ACR. The social benefits are really big because of when we've been up in Hearst, for example, there are people that want to be able to come for medical appointments, to come down to Sault Ste. Marie, to come to the college and university and those kinds of things. People are just wanting to go and visit their families and be interconnected the way we used to be in Northern Ontario. And people say, well, we have such vast areas, we can't afford rail anymore. Well, it's the other way around. We can't afford to keep on filling up all these potholes that are getting so damaged by overuse of roads. And so that's where we've got to really change the messaging. So there's a lot of these current issues. I'm just going to move here so that I can see this. Thank you. Governments are, as you know, not supporting this infrastructure anymore. Private rail companies are not interested in passenger services. Now, as Dennis and Len were saying, there are some private companies that are being approached about this. Private companies tend, though, to be primarily, their whole goal is to make a profit, and they're primarily interested in tour trains. So even if we did have a private company, we would definitely still need to have a partnership with a public entity and to have public funding from the government. Because they will not, like a tour train does make a profit. If you look at Rocky Mountaineer, it costs $10,000 for a couple to go on Rocky Mountaineer from Vancouver to Calgary for a couple for one trip, $10,000. So that's the kind of service that they're used to running. Anyway, this is something which we've really got to keep in our minds, that there has to be some government funding, otherwise we're not going to be able to run this.
And we can talk further about some of the people, some of the companies listed here. One doesn't exist anymore. I don't know what it's doing on this list. One just is in cruises and does dinner cruises, that sort of thing. So it's not really a viable list, except for Rocky Mountaineer, which is too much money. It's
very expensive. And on this list, we don't have Via Rail and Ontario Northland, so those are things that could be added. Passenger rail needs to be public, as I said. There's no consultation with communities and stakeholders. But when the government made this decision, it didn't contact any of us. It just made the decision from Transport Canada. Disregard for the economic multiplier. We saw what happened with that study that was done, $38 million per year, low ending it. And passenger trains are not allowed to really realize the full potential of the area. There's so many things that this Algoma Central could be doing if it was run by an organization that really wanted to promote passenger services, tourism events like we have been doing through CAPT. And there's no connectivity between the different routes. The fact that ACR is on a route that goes right across Canada of the CN, that's the Canadian, and also that bud car that goes from Sudbury to White River. There's no connectivity between those lines and the ACR. That's got to be part of the plan to make sure that they connect, so we get passengers going back and forth. And privatization and deregulation has been the big theme of the government. They're just trying to get rid of, for example, that Crown Corporation of CN. A lot of people still think that CN is a Crown Corporation, and it's just the biggest private rail company in North America, with Bill Gates as its single biggest shareholder. So it's not interested in passenger service. It just wants to make billions of dollars off of freight. So our recommendations to the government are to have adequate financial funding for rail, public ownership of the tracks, and we keep in mind that you wouldn't privatize a road, a highway, so the rail bed should also not be privatized. Then businesses like CN could use it, but they shouldn't own it. They're a monopoly, and they're the only ones that can really control what goes on there. And the government model needs to be to allow for community input so that our various stakeholder groups can have a say as to how that service is run. So there's various actions that CAPT has been up to over the years. We've been trying to develop cultural events like the Group of 7 and Going to a Train event. We've also been creating public awareness and trying to broaden the coalition. And we've had resolutions of support from municipalities and First Nations. So this is one of our events. You probably are familiar with that. We just had a meeting today. It's all sold out for this year. And people come from Michigan, from Southern Ontario, Ottawa, Montreal. It's become a very popular event. That's this year's poster for it. We're also this year having an event, a culinary festival up in Hearst, and that'll be the weekend before the Group of 7 event, which is September 11th to 14th. And these are all things that people go by train to. And of course the Searchmount Polar Express that sold out last year in an hour and a half. This year we're going to have it on 2 days instead of just the 1 day. Whoops. Plug in.